Hi, welcome everyone. Today we're diving into the exciting topic of creating an entrepreneurship hub at Nova School of Science and Technology, and especially ensuring that this hub aligns seamlessly with the school's core values and mission. This will be our agenda for the presentation, where we'll basically pass through all the five stages of the value creation wheel method and end with our key takeaways on this whole process. Firstly, we'll start by introducing ourselves and the university that presented us with this challenge. Our team is composed by myself, Duarte Ferreira, and my colleagues Lorenzo, Federico, and Duarte Matos. We are all students enrolled in the management master's degree here at Nova SB, and we have all brought our passion for innovation and entrepreneurship into this project. Our project is a game changer, designed to unify and activate Nova FCT's entrepreneurial potential. And it will try to tackle a significant issue presented to us, which is the lack of a structured ecosystem for its students. During this presentation, we will present solutions to reinforce the role of Nova FCT as a catalyst uh, for impactful scientific and technological change by providing a practical environment for students to turn their ideas into something real. We started in the first phase of the VCW by understanding the current situation that it was presented to us and identifying the key challenges. Within the first phase, we'll go through different sub phases. First, we'll start in the diagnostic sub phase to analyze the current situation and identifying key challenges. Then we go for the key challenge of the core problem, and we'll finish with some expected KPIs for the project. Diving into the diagnostic section, more specifically, Nova FCT's goal is to advance scientific knowledge, technological innovation, and sustainability through education and collaboration. This mission is fundamental in shaping our approach and aligned with its core values of excellence, innovation, and integrity. These values not only guide its educational practices, but also foster strong partnership and drive societal impact. In addition to the mission and values, their long term vision is to become a leading European center of excellence in engineering, science, and technology. And they are committed to transforming academic knowledge into industry innovation, amplifying their impact on a global scale. We also wanted to take a closer look at what makes entrepreneurship hubs so important. These hubs play a big role in building dynamic, supportive communities where new ideas can grow and startups can thrive. They offer more than just co working spaces, they provide access to mentors, networking opportunities, and a space where people can learn from each other. This kind of environment helps spark creativity and pushes innovation forward. A big advantage is the access to funding, as being part of a hub uh, makes it easier for startups to connect with investors and get the support they need to bring their ideas to life. As we plan to structure its own entrepreneurship center at Nova City, we want to take these lessons on board to create a space that supports innovation, brings people together, and helps to put Nova City on the map as a leader in this space. To better understand the main challenge, we used several frameworks to diagnose our situation, and we started by creating a Ishikawa diagram to identify the key root causes behind it. Starting from the base, the tailor of the fish, the first issue we identified is many students aren't aware of entrepreneurship activities and faculty have limited time for involvement. Next, we looked at limited physical and financial resources where there is no dedicated space, little funding, and few tools. A third cause is that the implementation strategy is unclear with no KPIs or alignment with Nova FCT's goals. And finally, we identified external and institutional constraints because approval processes are low and there are limited partnerships with investors. Altogether, these causes explain why launching an entrepreneurship hub is so challenging, but by understanding them, we started focusing on practical solutions. We also conducted a SWOT analysis to better understand of FCT's position. Among its strengths are a strong academic reputation, deep technical expertise, and growing interest of students in entrepreneurship, plus prototyping capabilities to support early stage ideas. On the downside, there's no dedicated hub space yet, limited funding, are not enough staff focused on running the hub. Opportunities include the rising momentum in university-led entrepreneurship and partnerships with research labs, but there are threats too, like strong competition challenges in student engagement and the risk of appearing too commercially driven. This gives a roadmap for building a hub that's impactful and sustainable. After doing a SWOT analysis, we use the Taos matrix to build actionable strategies. Starting with strengths opportunities, we'll leverage students' technical skills and prototyping capabilities to build partnerships with labs and research centers. By positioning the hub as the go to tech partner for university startups and using an of FCT's academic reputation, we can attract institutional support and funding. In the strengths threats quadrant, we'll turn student interest into visible hands-on initiatives to prevent disengagement by clearly aligning with academic values and offering deep technical expertise. We can stand out from more general hubs. For weaknesses, opportunities, collaborations can help address the lack of space and human resources. We'll also pursue funding and bring in external support to strengthen soft skills, entrepreneurial training. Finally, in weaknesses, threats, defining a clearly hub identity will help us stand out and avoid confusion. With limited resources, we'll improve communication and engagement using what we have and outsource strategically when we need it. This Taos analysis guides us toward a focused, practical path. So, after analyzing the situation through the Ishikawa diagram, SWOT analysis, and Taos framework, we arrived at a core problem we want to tackle. At Nova FCT, students have the technical skills to develop innovative ideas and promising prototypes, thanks to their strong engineering background. But there's the issue. Most of these projects stay within the academic world. They don't move forward, they don't reach the market, and their real world potential goes unrealized. This gap means they're missing out on opportunities to turn their great ideas into impactful startups. And that's exactly the challenge we aim to solve with our Entrepreneurship Hub. To go deeper into the root of our challenge, we use the five whys method, and two clear takeaways emerged. First, we need to create an entrepreneurship hub that actively supports students in turning their innovative ideas into real world ventures. Second, it's essential to get the team's approval. And to do that, the hub must be aligned with the NovFCT's academic values. And you will see that these two takeaways are the heart of our approach going forward. As we went through our research and analysis, we asked ourselves many questions. What should we build? Why is it needed? How can we make it happen? Where should it be? And which steps should we take first? But through all of that, one question stood out as the most important: how to create an entrepreneurship hub in FCT that aligns with the school's values. Because alignment is key. If the hub doesn't reflect Nov FCT's academic mission, culture, and long term vision, it won't gain the support it needs to or create lasting impact. So, this is a question that now guides our entire approach, not just building a hub, but building the right hub in the right way. So at the start, we set some KPIs to keep the team aligned during the VCW process. We committed to weekly participation, with each member attending at least one meeting and contributing actively. We aimed for 75% of the team to attend the VCW lectures, sharing insights when needed. And we agreed to complete tasks on time with clear communication about any delays. These KPIs kept us organized, collaborative, and focused throughout the project. At the beginning of the project, we also defined short term KPIs to guide the first 6 months and ensure we were focused on clear, measurable outcomes. We set three main goals. First, to secure written approval from the Dean to formally back the Entrepreneurship Hub. Second, to define the Hub's board with at least three members from faculty, industry alumni, or students. And third, to launch the Hub with a physical event aiming for at least 25 attendees and strong stakeholder participation to build early momentum. These short-term KPIs were designed to turn our vision into concrete, visible start. Looking further ahead, we set ambitious long-term KPIs to ensure the Entrepreneurship Hub creates lasting impact over 2 years. First, to train at least 100 students through entrepreneurship programs and events. building skills and confidence. Second, to secure partnerships with at least two industry players for mentorship and startup support. And third, to help launch startups with a goal of at least one venture from the hub raising 50,000 euros or more in external funding. These long term KPIs reflected our commitment to building a sustainable and thriving entrepreneurial community. At the beginning of the project, we outlined how we expected to engage different stakeholders throughout the VCW process to ensure well rounded input and alignment. We plan to involve five key decision makers in phases 1 and 3 and 5 to help us frame the challenge, guide decisions, and validate the final solution. For competitor analysis, we expect to engage with two players during phases 2 and 4 to learn from existing entrepreneurship hubs and benchmark best practices. To the local community was also part of our plan, with at least one representative involved in phases 2 and 4 to bring in external perspectives and ensure broader relevance. And finally, we anticipated input from over 40 potential customers, mainly students, during phases 2 and 4, to validate their needs and shape a hub that truly serves its users. This planned stakeholder engagement was designed to give us the insights and feedback needed to build a solution that's both innovative and grounded in reality. Now, moving on to the phase 2. In phase 2, we have several sub phases where we will create ideas and criteria and then refining those concepts created. Diving deep into the ideas subphase, our goal was to generate a broad and creative set of solutions, and to do that, we used structured ideation frameworks, brainstorming with AI support, and a survey using the Wishings approach. First, we held a brainstorming session with our KDM, Professor Fernanda Lusa. This session helped us quickly surface a variety of perspectives and solution directions. To go even further, we also integrated AI tools, which allowed us to expand and enrich our initial ideal pool, going beyond what was generated in the room and bringing in broader insights. Next, we launched the student survey using the wishing approach. This method encouraged students to imagine freely, focusing less on limitations and more on what they wished on at an entrepreneurial hub at Nova SST could offer. This allowed us to capture bold, aspirational ideas directly from our target users. Together, these two approaches gave us a diverse and creative starting point, grounded in stakeholder input and structured for innovation. During our brainstorming session with Professor Fernando Lusa, we focused on identifying impactful, actionable ideas for the hub. We organized these into key categories. Starting with management, we proposed forming a dedicated board to oversee the hub, including both the internal and external strategic partners to ensure strong leadership and alignment. And the resources, one of the main priorities was creating a physical and digital space at Nova FCT, fully equipped for prototyping and supported by partnerships with research labs. When it came to awareness, we emphasized the importance of strong marketing strategy to boost visibility. In funding, the focus was on building partnerships with sponsors, VCs, and accelerators to ensure long term financial sustainability. For education, we highlighted the launch of mentorship programs and the integration of entrepreneurship into the academic curriculum. And finally, in innovation, we prioritized organizing workshops to activate the community and build momentum. This structured brainstorming helped us identify the core pillars of a successful hub tailored to Nova FCT. To complement our brainstorming, we also used AI tools to generate additional ideas, helping us thinking more strategically about what could make our hub unique and effective. One of the top insights was the need to research best practices, specifically looking at other successful entrepreneurial hubs in other universities. Another key idea was to create a student committee, ensuring the hub remains student centered and adapts to their evolving needs. AI also suggested the value of a virtual hub component, allowing remote access to mentorship, events, and even global investment networks. Finally, we saw strong potential in building a team focused on secure public and in engaging students as ambassadors to promote the hub and inspire participation. These ideas enriched our solutions pool and gave us a more forward thinking perspective to complement our human insights. To better understand our core audience, the students of Nova SST, we launched a survey that gathered around 40 responses starting from a pool of 800 students. The goal was to confirm whether students aligned with our target group, explore their views on the challenge, and collect ideas they'd like to see implemented in the hub. We took a close look at some key questions. First, are students actually interested in entrepreneurship? We found out that 48% said yes, 34% said no, and 80%, 18% were unsure. This tells us there's a strong base of interest, but also plenty of room to grow and engage the more hesitant majority. Second, have they participated in any entrepreneurial programs before? Here, 68% said yes, showing that many students already have some exposure or curiosity in the space, a promising sign for engagement potential. These insights reinforce that the hub could resonate with a solid portion of the student's body, but it also needs to be inclusive, accessible, and inspiring for those still on the fence. We also wanted to understand how many students had worked on university projects they truly believed in, projects they wished could become real ventures. 60% of the respondents said yes, they had worked on something they wanted to take further, which is a powerful signal that innovation is already happening, but it's not going beyond the classroom. So, what's stopping them? The top barrier was lack of funding, reported by 26% of students, showing that access to capital remains a major hurdle. Closely behind was lack of connections at 22% and lack of knowledge at 21%, pointing to a clear need for stronger networks and guidance. Other challenges included having a weak team and lack of institutional support. These insights underline the critical role of Entrepreneurship Hub could play, not just as an space, but as a support system that addresses the real challenges students face when trying to bring their ideas to life. To wrap up our survey, we asked the key question: do you think opening a physical entrepreneurship hub at Nova FCT could help turn ideas into real projects? The response was clear: 44% said yes, and another 45% said maybe, meaning that 90% of students see potential value in an initiative. This tells us that while not everyone is fully convinced yet, the majority are either on board or open to the idea. There's strong curiosity, and with the right communication and structure, we can turn that curiosity into real engagement. Beyond our structured frameworks, we also invited open contributions from the students, and the responses were creative, forward thinking, and highly aligned with what today's entrepreneurs actually need. Our one major idea was to build a central hub that brings everything together: learning resources, productivity, ed research, and startup support, all in one place. A space designed to inform, inspire, and empower, like our initial idea was. Another big area of interest was technological tools. Students imagined access to things like virtual reality spaces to test product simulations, funding simulators to learn how to pitch and manage capital, AI driven analytics, and business strategies that could guide decision making and predict market trends, and advanced data visualization and project management software. But tech wasn't everything. Many students emphasized the human side too. They proposed building a strong community around the hub, hosting international networking events, and even creating a structure that bridges students from different universities, bringing diverse backgrounds together. One popular suggestion was to have something like Shark Tank, where students pitch their ideas to real investors in a competitive, energy format, making the leap from classroom to real world pitching. To complete our idea collection, we gathered even more valuable inputs from students, and what stood out is their clear desire for real world impact, support, and hands on opportunities. Students emphasized the value of being paid for working in startups, recognizing entrepreneurship as real work that deserves compensation. This adds motivation and makes the hub more attractive. They also want clear support structures for starting a business, not just inspiration, but help with market research, funding, legal process, and marketing. In other words, guidance that turns ambition into execution. They also need mentorship programs tailored to their startups' needs, connecting students with industry experts, professors, and founders in relevant sectors like engineering, IT, and healthcare. Lastly, students propose practical, relevant workshops and talks featuring CEOs, investors, and researchers, giving them access to real stories and challenges and networks from the entrepreneurial world. These ideas reinforce one thing: students are asking not just for a space, but for a system that prepares them to build, launch, and grow real ventures.
So in this phase, our goal was to define the most relevant criteria to evaluate and select the best ideas. We relied on three structured ideation frameworks: mind mapping, brainwriting enhanced with AI, and a Q&A session. Each of these methods brought a different perspective and helped us ensure our criteria were well-rounded, diverse, and aligned with Nova SST's goals. With mind mapping, each team member visually explored key ideas individually, and we then came together to identify central themes and refine the criteria. Through brainwriting, we silently wrote down ideas during our session with Fernando Lusa. And finally, to validate everything, we held a Q&A session where we got external expert feedback and ensured our framework covered all the necessary angles. This helped us define a solid foundation for selecting the most impactful and feasible ideas moving forward. So to begin defining our evaluation criteria, we use the mind mapping exercise centered on the question: how do we create an entrepreneurial hub at Nova FCT? From there, we identified five key dimensions: financial viability, legal requirements, stakeholder support, market potential, and finally, execution feasibility, which focused on the timeline planning, team capabilities, and available infrastructure. The visual approach helped us see the full picture and ensure that our future evaluation would cover not just feasibility but strategic alignment, engagement potential, and impact. After the mind mapping session, we moved into the brainwriting. This allowed us to independently define what makes an idea worth pursuing before opening it up to discussion. We identified six key criteria that any idea should meet: strategic alignment, financial viability, stakeholder support, execution feasibility, market potential, and lasting impact metrics. These six dimensions helped us build a robust framework to fairly and effectively evaluate our proposals. Now, to expand the quality of our analysis, we also included AI-generated criteria, which helped us cross-check our human input with more objective and data-driven perspectives. These five additional criteria raised important strategic questions, such as originality, infrastructure compatibility, reach, implementation difficulty, and finally, early impacts. Bringing in these AI-generated filters helped us refine our judgment and ensure we prioritize ideas that were not only good on paper but actionable and impactful from day one. So, to ensure our criteria were not just internally valid but externally credible as well, we consulted with the Nova SB at Entrepreneurship Institute. After developing a broad list of potential selection criteria, we reached out to them for feedback. At first, we weren't sure which filters would be most relevant, but after reviewing our approach, they told us that the analysis was already sufficiently comprehensive. This validation gave us the confidence to move forward, knowing that our selection framework was aligned with the best practices. Once we had our ideas and criteria, um, we entered the purification of concepts phase. So we used the POCA method, where each team member scored ideas from 1 to 10, then revealed scores at the same time to avoid bias. So after discussing any major differences, we categorized the ideas into four groups: keep, multiply, review, and kill. After applying the POCA method, these are the ideas that scored the highest, between 8 and 10 points, meaning they showed both strong feasibility and strong impact. Some of the most strategic ideas included creating a board to manage the hub and forming a dedicated operations team, collaborating with Nova SB and Haddad Institute to align with the existing excellence, identifying faculty experts in entrepreneurship research, and organizing workshops to define the hub's vision alongside key stakeholders. We also prioritize building the community side, engaging students with entrepreneurial interests, selecting alumni to act as ambassadors, which is very important, and creating a student committee to ensure the hub truly reflects student needs. These iterated ideas will become the backbone of our final concept. Next, we have the multiply group, ideas that scored between 5 and 7. These didn't make up the top tier, but they still showed strong potential. So they include establishing both a physical and online space at Nova SST, securing institutional buy-in, attracting long-term funding, forging external alliances, and building a funding research team. So these ideas serve as a strong building blocks. While they may require more resources or time, they represent important levers for long-term sustainability and external feasibility. Now we have the kill category. These are the ideas that score below 5. Some examples include developing labs or rapid prototyping resources, seed funding for startups, and integrating startup-related academic courses. We also exclude ideas like hackathons, design thinking workshops, and remote-only hubs, not because they lack value, but because they either duplicate other solutions or were too resource-intensive for the initial implementation. This slide continues the kill category. Examples include developing advanced AI tools, hosting large scale events, and launching a full startup course or bootcamp. So other ideas like mentorship programs, CEO talks, or funding workshops were seen as too complex to operationalize in our initial phase. So particularly without clear structures or available human resources. Finally, we had a few ideas that landed in the review category. These scored inconsistently across the team. So the examples are involving both internal and external partners in the decision-making structure, partnering with research labs, ensuring access to startup infrastructure, and hosting a high-profile investor event. These ideas were neither fully discarded nor selected. So instead, we marked them for a reassessment later once the hub gains momentum and more capacity becomes available.
So after applying the Boca method, we didn't just categorize ideas, we also refined them. So this slide shows us how we took promising elements from the multiply and review groups and transform them into more strategic and actionable concepts. From the multiply group on the left, we proposed a phased approach, starting with an online platform before scaling it into a physical hub, develop a structured advocacy plan, designed a funding roadmap, focused on mutually beneficial partnerships, particularly those that provided mentorship and corporate R&D access, and emphasized leveraging research not only for innovation but also for securing European grants. On the right, from the review category, we suggested building a structured advisory board with both internal and external players. We proposed an applied innovation program. We outlined a detailed infrastructure plan for labs and envisioned an annual Novatech Startup Summit to establish the hub as a key player in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. These purified ideas became the blueprint for our final solution, pretty much. So, in parallel with evaluating ideas, we also assessed the criteria themselves using the POCA method. This helped us refine which evaluation filters were most useful and relevant to our challenge. The highest rated criteria, scoring between 8 and 10, were those that ensured strategic fit and feasibility. These included alignment with university's vision and goals, contribution to the academic, entrepreneurial, and social environment, generating concrete impact within the hub's first year, and feasibility and on a low budget. We also prioritized criteria that reflected implementation speed, realism, and team readiness, like whether the idea could be launched within 6 months, if the team had the skills to execute it, and whether it used existing infrastructure instead of requiring major new investments. So, in short, these criteria helped us stay anchored to what was strategic, doable, and impactful, which ultimately shaped the strength of our final concept.
So these criteria were placed in the multiply group, meaning that they showed potential but weren't considered essential across the board. However, they still added valuable layers to our assessment framework. So the first one was cost effectiveness. Next was responding to unmet needs, and finally we had a criterion around scope of impact. These criteria weren't dropped, they were simply less decisive when compared to alignment, feasibility, and short term impact. So these are the lowest scoring criteria placed in the kill category, meaning they were either redundant, difficult to apply, or not critical to our short-term objectives. For example, scalability and expansion potential, criteria like economic returns or investment potential, even involvement of external players. Um, and while measurable impact was one of them as well. So in short, these criteria weren't wrong, they just weren't the best fit for evaluating early stage ideas in a university setting with limited time and resources. And finally, we had a few criteria that received mixed ratings. The first was about fostering strategic collaborations. While everyone agreed partnerships are important, it wasn't always clear how to measure this as a selection criterion for early ideas. The second was the use of defined indicators like ROI or KPIs and or the number of startups created. And lastly, we looked at originality. So these were flagged as useful but not decisive. Just like we refined ideas, we also distilled our evaluation criteria into stronger, more strategic guidelines. From the multiply group, we kept criteria that emphasize efficiency, relevance, and originality, and scalability. From the review group, we selected a focus on active partnerships, a need for clear success metrics, and finally, a strong value proposition. Together, these refined criteria helped us stay focused on ideas that were not only exciting but also strategically sound, impactful, and realistic to execute.
Now that we've defined and refined our ideas and criteria, it's time to move into the third phase of the VCW method, assess.
So the assess phase marked the turning point into the project. After generating and verifying both our ideas and criteria, we moved into a more structured evaluation, starting with a meeting with the KDMs. So this meeting guided three crucial steps. Point A, select ideas. Point B, select criteria. Point C, rank and weight criteria. So this process ensured we weren't just relying on opinions, we were building our solution on validated, measurable, and strategic foundations.
So, to bring structure and legitimacy to our evaluation process, we conducted an on site visit at Nova FCT to meet with the key decision makers. So this wasn't just a check-in; it was a working session where we applied our selection frameworks and involved real institutional voices in shaping the outcome. Pretty much, we had the opportunity to engage with Professors Anish Zutzi, um, Virgilio Machado as well, the former dean, and Fernanda Losal, who all offered valuable insights during the dot voting, the casual mapping, and the risk analysis exercises. Their contributions were critical in validating our evaluation criteria and in ranking the most promising ideas for the Entrepreneurship Hub.
To ensure that our proposal aligned with Nova FCT's core identity, we began the meeting with the KDMs by presenting a draft of the school's firm DNA. The draft emphasized Nova FCT's DNA as a school committed to advancing science and technology, promoting innovation, sustainability, and excellence, and building bridges between academia and industry through strong partnerships. This version was then refined in collaboration with the KDMs, so their perspectives were reflected, and we could move forward with full alignment between our ideas and the institution's long-term vision.
To select the most relevant and promising ideas, we used the dot voting system during our meeting with the KDMs. We presented all the ideas and gave each participant 10 points to distribute freely across the options, depending on what they believed was most impactful and aligned with Nova City's goals. This method helped us in two key ways, pretty much. So it revealed which ideas had the strongest support among decision makers, and it allowed us to objectively align our next steps with institutional priorities. So the simplicity of this method ensured quick feedback, while the point system gave us measurable data to back our decisions. After collecting all the KDM's votes, we compiled and analyzed the results to identify which ideas resonated the most. So this overview gave us two important outcomes as well. So it showed us where the strongest institutional support lies and it created a data-driven foundation for prioritizing the next steps. We could clearly see which ideas had the greatest consensus and momentum behind them, and that's what we'll present next. So the top scoring ideas ranked between 8 and 10 points.
So these were the final results of our dot routing process, grouped by score from the KDMs. So just to give you an overview of the different categories, starting with the 10 out of 10 ideas, we have creating a board to manage the hub, securing the funding opportunities through VC sponsorship, and building key academic and institutional collaboration. Moving on with the 9 out of 10 ideas, these included creating strategic partnership, launching both physical and digital infrastructure, and fostering a community-driven environment around the hub. Lastly, 8 out of 10 ideas still held strong support, and these focused more on outreach and innovation, like market visibility campaigns, applied research initiatives, and rapid prototyping resources. Altogether, this ranking gives us a clear hierarchy of priorities.
So once we had selected the top ideas, the next step was to define which criteria mattered most for evaluating them. To do this, we used a framework called the casual mapping. This method helped us understand the interconnections between each criterion, how one influenced or depended on another. For instance, we saw how strategic alignment could drive both funding opportunities and stakeholder support, making it a high impact criterion. By visualizing these relationships, we were able to prioritize the criteria with the strongest influence across the system, ensuring that our evaluation wouldn't be based on isolated metrics, but on a systemic understanding of what would make the entrepreneurship hub succeed. Um, this deeper insight helped us rank our criteria more strategically, which leads us into the next step, assigning final weights. Now, this slide shows the outcome of our casual mapping exercise, where we categorized criteria based on their influence. On the left, you see the key drivers. These are the criteria that had a strong cascading influence on other effects, on other factors. Things like alignment with the university's vision, feasibility within a low budget, and generating concrete impact within the first year. These were seen as essential levers for success and became our top priorities. So, on the other hand, the criteria on the right had low impact. They were more dependent on other variables and didn't significantly shift the bigger picture. As such, we chose not to emphasize these in our final assessment. So, this distinction allowed us to focus our decision making on what would truly move the needle for the entrepreneurship hub, building a selection framework that's not only strategic but also highly actionable. After finalizing our set of criteria, the next challenge was understanding how to rank them effectively. To do that, we used a risk analysis matrix during our session with the KDMs. So this tool helped us evaluate each criterion based on its risk level, and impact, making it easier to classify and prioritize. As you can see in the matrix on the right, we plotted the criteria to see which ones carried the highest urgency or potential downside. So this analysis was key to assigning proper weightings to the seven most relevant criteria, guiding our next steps with a structured and risk-aware approach. This matrix illustrates the risk and influence level of each criterion. We placed each filter based on two dimensions, so risk or relevance to the success of the hub, and filtering power, meaning how much it impacts other criteria. So from this analysis, we produce the final ranking shown on the right. For instance, being aligned with the university's vision and goals was ranked as the most important, followed by the infrastructure difficulty and the realism of the solution. This structured ranking helped us ensure objective prioritization and guided which ideas to push forward.
So now let's move on to the fourth phase of the value creation wheel, the narrow phase. So in this phase focuses on identifying the most promising ideas and shaping them into a clear value proposition. So we followed the VCW methodology, which breaks this phase into three key parts: the value creation funnel, where we filtered out less viable ideas; the concept and value proposition, where we defined what the hub will offer; and then the prototype, where we visualized how the solution might look in practice. So, moving on to the first subphase, the subphase 4A. Here we applied the value creation funnel using the most strategically significant filters that we identified in the previous risk matrix. Such filters are the three you can see above. Is it consistent with the vision and goals of the university? The difficulty of implementation in terms of infrastructure, technology, and resources? And is it a realistic, efficient, and actionable solution? Each filter came with a specific threshold that we identified for our analysis. In this specific slide, you will find the 8 ideas that have successfully met all the filter thresholds, allowing them to progress to the MCDA. An idea that passes the filter is indicated with a 1. On this slide, you can see that not all the ideas pass the filter thresholds. For instance, create and foster a strong community around the hub didn't pass the thresholds that we identified during our analysis of the filter realistic, efficient, and actionable solution. That's why it's indicated with a 0. Here you can see the remaining 6 ideas that didn't pass the second filter, so the difficulty of implementation, and the X indicates that the filter wasn't applied since the idea didn't pass the threshold of the previous filter. Now, to narrow down the ideas even more, we went into the MCDA analysis and we took the ideas that passed all the thresholds and we applied new filters. So, is it feasible with a low budget? Does it generate a concrete impact on the hub success in the first year? Does it contribute to creating a sense of belonging around the hub? And is it possible to implement this idea within a 6 months period? So we evaluated and analyzed each idea, and we took the ones that passed the majority of the filters, since these ideas were the most attractive one. So these are the final 5 ideas highlighted in blue that passed the analysis. So, as a result of our funnel and MCDA, we ended up with these final 5 ideas, which conveniently also outlined a clear roadmap to follow for our solution. So, starting from ensuring a clear separation from the university board, going to creating a board to manage the hub, studying successful university entrepreneurship hub for the best practices, and creating a student committee to support the operative team, to then offer a virtual version of the hub for remote collaboration. And all these 5 ideas enabled us to vision a value proposition, which is a student powered, agile, and inclusive hub that empowers Nova FCT's community to transform ideas into real world impact by offering autonomy, structure, inspiration, and tools to make entrepreneurship accessible, visible, and actionable. Now, starting from the first idea, ensuring a clear separation from the university board, we'll start focusing on each idea and showing you how we thought to implement it. The need to clearly separate the hub's governance from the university board was repeatedly emphasized during the KDM meetings, underlining its strategic importance for the project's outcome. The goal of this first idea is to make sure that the hub is able to operate with entrepreneurial agility, avoiding bottlenecks while staying aligned with the university's mission. So, to do this, it follows a light and flexible structure. It reports to leadership without needing daily oversight, functions as a complementary initiative and not as part of a central administration, and adopts a light governance model that ensures operational freedom. And all this allows the hub to move fast while staying strategically connected to the university. Now let's dive into the second idea, so creating a board to manage the hub. The goal here is to make sure that the hub stays focused and aligned with academia and the startup ecosystem. So we imagine a board with four main roles: the board president, who will run the meetings, keep things on track, and make sure that everyone is aligned. So from the department to the external partners, a faculty representative, ideally from the entrepreneurship area, who will connect the hub to Nova FCT's academic goals. And this person will help keep activities in line with scientific and educational values. Then, an external advisor who will bring real world startup and or VC experience. He will help to make sure that the hub stays relevant for the market and well connected to the outside world. And then finally, an innovation liaison, which will act as a bridge to Nova's labs and research, and also will help teams access prototyping tools and support the transfer of scientific ideas into real world projects. On this slide, you can see how we visualized on an organizational chart the hub's board. So at the top, we have the board president, and then underneath, the faculty representative, which is ideally an entrepreneurship professor, an external advisor, and an innovation liaison. Now, coming to the third idea, so studying successful university entrepreneurship hubs for best practices, we took into consideration five different entrepreneurship hubs from five different universities around the world, some of them ranking between the best entrepreneurship hubs in Europe. So we took their and analyzed their proven models to design a structure tailored to Nova FCT's identity and context. So we took the Haddad Institute of Nova SB as the first example, then the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship at MIT, which also has a virtual hub, then the SSE Business Lab of Stockholm School of Economics, the Unternehmertum of the TUM School in Munich, and then the Creative Destruction Lab of the University of Toronto, which also has a virtual hub. So this is the analysis we did for each entrepreneurship hub around the world. So we analyzed its structure and the main and unique services that it offered. On this slide, you can see two examples. They have that institute in Nova SB, which has a physical structure and focuses on incubation, mentorship, expert networks, research, and community events. Then below, the Martin Trust Center at MIT, which operates both physically and virtually through its Orbit platform. It offers a wide range of services, including entrepreneurship education, acceleration programs, mentorship, dedicated resources, and community events. Here we looked at the SSE Business Lab, the incubator at the Stockholm School of Economics. This hub has a physical structure and also offers a wide range of services to support students and alumni startups. Some of the key offerings include structured programs depending on the startup stage, so from ideation to incubation, access to early stage funding through SSE ventures, a strong investor network, along with regular events to connect founders and VCs. It has also a dedicated office space and a 24/7 access for teams in their main programs. Plus, there's a focus on mentorship, open coaching, and sustainability, which is built into their selection and support process. Overall, SSE Business Lab acts as a central part of the university's entrepreneurial ecosystem, supporting not only the students, but also the alumni and the faculty. Here we analyzed the Unternehmertum, the Entrepreneurship Hub at the Technical University of Munich. It's this one is also a physical hub with one of the most developed infrastructures in Europe. It was also mentioned by the Financial Times on the top university hubs in Europe. And some key offerings include a set of structured startup programs that cover everything from idea validation to investor ready acceleration, entrepreneurship education through their own academy and executive programs. It has a really strong access to capital with close ties to a large venture capital firm. It has world class physical facilities, including a 2,700 square meter prototyping lab and a dedicated smart city innovation hub. It also provides a broad industry network connecting startups with over 100 corporate partners. And finally, it has a strong integration with the university, offering course credits, applied research, and commercialization support. Finally, as the last example that we took into consideration for our hub analysis, it's the Creative Destruction Lab, which is based at the Rotman School of Management in Toronto. This one uses a hybrid structure which combines a physical space and a virtual platform. Its key offerings include a milestone based venture program where startups work with mentors over 9 months to hit strategic goals. Also has specialized streams in areas like AI, climate, health, and quantum, which is tailored to deep tech startups. It also has a strong mentor access with a global network of experienced founders, investors, and scientists. It's globally renowned and it's supported by multiple global sites, giving the ventures international exposure. We then focused our attention on the offerings of the virtual hub of the MIT and the Creative Destruction Lab. And what we could see is that both platforms supported startups at different stages and focused on making resources and mentorship easily accessible online. And some of the best practices and offerings include goal tracking systems to follow startup progress, virtual mentorship and access to events, educational material for entrepreneurship, and but also community features for example, team building and connection between peers. So then we summarized the best practices that we observed across the different hubs we previously analyzed. And what we noticed is that most successful hubs tend to offer a core set of services, which we can think of as a kind of base package for building an effective entrepreneurship hub. For instance, some of these offerings include stage based programs that have clear phases like the ideation, incubation, and acceleration phase. They usually have a strong mentorship and expert network that often involve entrepreneurs and founders. They also have some kind of academic integration that link the hub to the university courses and research activities. Also here, based on the analysis that we previously did on the two different platforms offered by the entrepreneurship hubs, we identified some best practices that we think could help us design the virtual platform for Nova SCT's entrepreneurship hub. Now, coming to the fourth idea, creating a student committee to support the operative team. The goal here is to actively involve entrepreneurial students in the daily operations of the hub. This helps ensure energy, ownership, and continuity over time. The committee would support activities like events, onboarding, and logistics, while also acting as a bridge between students and the hub board. It would be made up of around 5 to 8 students selected through an open application process with roles divided across key areas such as events, partnerships, and marketing. And here we show the full organizational structure we envision for the hub. At the top, we have the board that we saw previously, and just below, we introduce the operative team lead who acts as the connection between the board and the students. Then we have the student committee divided into key functional areas such as IT, marketing, events, and partnerships, with students taking active roles in each team. And this structure aims to combine strategic guidance from the board with the energy and involvement of the students in daily operations. Finally, coming to the fifth idea, offering a virtual version of the hub for remote collaboration. Given the limited budget, we see the virtual hub as a first step before developing a physical one. This platform would provide a smooth and interactive experience, allowing students, mentors, and partners to collaborate anytime and from anywhere. Key features include a personalized dashboard, a startup journey tracker, mentorship tools, a resource hub, and community features for team collaboration. In short, this virtual hub will help make entrepreneurship at Nova FCT more inclusive, borderless, and future proof. After the focus on each final idea, we started with the STP framework from the segmentation. And here, while the main goal of the hub is to serve its students, we believe including external stakeholders in the strategy brings clear strategic benefits. It can help increase the visibility and reputation of the hub beyond campus, attract collaboration, mentorship, and funding, and open up opportunities for real world validation and partnerships. In this way, the hub can position Nova FCT as a true contributor to the broader innovation ecosystem. So, to break it down, we identified two types of target segments: internal and external. Internally, we focus on Nova FCT innovators, so students already working on startup ideas, and future innovators, so students curious about entrepreneurship but not sure how to start. Externally, we include early stage founders in the Lisbon area, a broad mentor and investor network, corporate and SME partners interested in student led innovation, and major investors such as VCs and incubators. So, in short, external stakeholders bring real world relevance and resources, while internal segments bring energy and innovation. Here we map out what each group gets and what they give back to the hub. So Nova FCT innovators gain mentorship, tools, and visibility. In return, they bring ideas, energy, and startup activity. Future innovators get access to entry level programs and inspiration, helping the hub build a strong pipeline and future deal flow. The external network benefits from access to talent and the opportunity to give back. They add mentorship, credibility, and sometimes even funding. And corporates gain innovation, partnerships, and student led solutions. For the hub, they bring real world challenges and potential sponsorships. And finally, major investors benefit from deal flow and visibility while providing funding, validation, and access to larger networks. Together, these players create a self sustaining ecosystem where ideas, support, and resources continuously flow. So now moving on to the targeting phase, each player in the ecosystem will be approached in a tailored way based on their motivations and roles within the ecosystem. So for Nova FCT innovators, will offer personalized support to help develop their ideas with a focus on relevance and peer to peer connection. For future innovators, we'll provide easy entry points like inspiration events and beginner workshops to spark interest. For external mentors, will be reached through direct outreach and startup networks, appealing to their wish to give back and stay engaged with emerging talents. Corporates and SMEs will see the hub as a place to scout talent, collaborate on projects, and tap into student innovation. And finally, for major investors, we'll share traction updates, host demo days, and position the hub as a source of high quality deal flow. All of this helps create mutual value and strengthen the hub's network effect. Now, coming to the final part of the STP, the positioning, we position the Nova SCT Entrepreneurship Hub as an integrated innovation environment designed specifically for science and tech driven students who want to turn their ideas into real world ventures. It combines structured venture support, mentorship, academic integration, and a virtual layer to enable startup tracking and collaboration. What makes it stand out is the deep tech focus, hands on approach, and flexible digital infrastructure, making it more dynamic than traditional university incubators. In short, this hub becomes a modern, inclusive, and future oriented space that reflects Nova FCT's commitment to innovation and helps translate research into scalable impact. We then also performed a value curve analysis to compare the main offerings of the hubs we studied before, including the MIT, the Haddad Institute, the Creative Destruction Lab, and the Ontanema Hub. Each line here represents one hub, and the vertical axis shows the relative strength of their offering across key categories, from structured programs and access to capital to physical space, mentorship, and digital tools. This helped us understand how each hub positions itself and which areas they prioritized the most. Then we proceeded by adding the Nova FCT hub shown in red. And what we can see is that while Nova FCT might not yet match other hubs in some areas, like the physical space or investment networks, it stands out in other key areas, such as the digital platform, the science and tech focus, and community engagement. And this analysis helped us identify clear differentiation points and where Nova FCT can position itself strategically to provide a unique value even with limited resources. Moving into phase 4C, we now present the prototype of the virtual hub. The idea is to build a student centered digital platform that brings the Nova FCT Hub experience completely online, making it accessible from anywhere at any time. So, this is designed as an MVP, meaning it includes just the core features needed to start. So, for example, a personalized dashboard, the startup journey tracker, mentorship portal, event calendar, resource library, and additional community tools. This lean version allows for a quick and efficient first development phase. Then, over time, the platform can be expanded and improved based on real user feedback and evolving needs. The dashboard already provides a clear overview of startup progress, upcoming sessions, and important updates, all in one place. Finally, to support the successful launch of the virtual hub, this slide outlines a tailored marketing mix. So, starting with the product, the virtual hub will offer a single digital space combining the initial features that I mentioned before. In terms of price, the service will be free of charge for students, researchers, and alumni. External users who wish to access the platform may be asked to pay a fee in the future. The place is fully digital, accessible via browser or mobile, ensuring maximum flexibility and accessibility. The people involved in running and supporting the hub include members of the board, the student committee, the mentors, and relevant external stakeholders. For promotion, the strategy includes internal university email campaigns, social media posts, class announcements, and leveraging the student committee to raise awareness and drive engagement. The process will rely on clear and fast digital workflows, for example, onboarding or booking mentorship sessions supported by tools like video tutorials. And lastly, for the digital evidence, users will have access to personalized digital portfolio where they can store certifications, project outcomes, and downloadable templates. We believe that this structure allows for an efficient launch while ensuring that the platform remains scalable and adaptable over time.
Okay, now let's move on the last phase of the value creation wheel. The act phase is where we bring our plan to life. It consists of three different case steps. First, defining the forums and the business model. Second, testing, evaluating the KPIs, defining at the beginning of the project. And the last one, implementation and control. Let's now to describe each one of these different steps. So the first M that we want to present you is the manpower, and this involves outlining the human resource needed for the project. Basically, these tables shows the specific task assigned to specific human resources with the linked task relevant maturity planned. The task relevant maturity planet can be of three different colors. If green indicates that the associated human resource has the skill to perform this task, if yellow, that maybe this resource is not fully competent, and finally, if it's red, means that this specific human resource don't have the appropriate skills to perform this task. So, analyzing the table, starting from the key DMs, we can see that in this specific part, they will need to take care of legal review and draft of standalone status, finalize and sign the separation agreement, and launch a call for application for board members, conduct interviews, and appoint the board. Moving on the board, in this case, the tasks are desk research on top domestic and international entrepreneurial hub, conduct interviews and surveys with people that work in this specific hub and compile a best practice report, and recruit members on campus, basically students. And finally, onboard the commit and hold the first planning meeting. At the end, so on the right of our table, we have the last part that is related to the student committee. And this is supposed to offer operational activity support to the board. So basically, the task in this case are specify requirement and select platform to develop the virtual hub and configure the environment, run user tests, and go live. Okay, the second ham now is minute, which refers to the timeline. This table maps out the period showing when each task is scheduled, and also there are the milestones that are highlighted in red. So, in line with what was described in the previous slide in terms of task and assignment of the respective human resources, the goal in the first 2 months will be to formally answer a clear separation from the university board. In the following month, it will be essential to define and appoint the hub board. After that, at the end of the fourth month, the achievement of two important milestones is expected. So, first, identifying the best practice for entrepreneurial hubs, and second, create a student committee that supports the board. Finally, thanks to the support of students and, if necessary, also the involvement of external professionals, the launch of the virtual hub is scheduled for the end of the 6 months. The third ham instead is money, representing the budget. So our proposed solution respects the initial low budget highlighted by the KDMs. In fact, the most important expense is for the virtual hub development, which we're keeping contained thanks to the support for the development of the virtual hub that comes from the student committee. After careful financial analysis and research, we anticipate that with a maximum expense of €2,000, it will be possible to implement the proposed solution. The last M is motivation. The key decision makers are motivated in realizing this project for two main reasons. First, addressing a student demand for a real entrepreneurship support, and second, creating a sustainable link between academia and the industry thanks to the service offered by the virtual hub and the network that will develop. To further define the project, we developed also a business model canvas. This outlines key partnership, activities, resources, value proposition, customer relationship, channels, customer segment, cost structure, and finally also revenue streams. These provide a holistic view of how the hub will operate and sustain itself. Furthermore, to define it better, even during this phase, we had a great meeting with the Haddad Institute to better understand the structure of the business model. So, only to cite some of the most important items, a student powered and agile and inclusive hub that empowers Nova FCT community to transform ideas into real world impact by offering autonomy, structure, inspiration, and tools to make entrepreneurship accessible, visible, and actionable. This will be the value proposition proposed for our solution. After that, for the revenue stream, the focus will be based on three different streams. Number one, national and European grants. Number two, fee for external subjects that want to use the service offered by the virtual hub. And number three, donor contribution. On the cost structure side, instead, the main cost will be connected with the platform development and hosting, marketing and communication, event and external speakers' contributions, and finally, maintenance and feature updates. For the key activities, instead, the most important will be platform development and maintenance, program design, mentor matching, and scheduling. After that, at the end, for the channels instead will be important to use different approach like the use of the virtual platform, internal university email and communication, social media and students groups, in-class announcement and faculty support, and finally also demo days and events. Based on the fact that we finished the analysis related to the phase 5A, now we start to analyze the phase 5B that involves in evaluating the initial KPIs defined. These tables shows the KPIs we defined categorized by team or project, along with the time period for measurement and expected result. In red are reported the KPIs that have not been achieved or are not longer in line with the final solution. In yellow, those that cannot yet be evaluated because they relate to a period following the duration of the course. And finally, in green, those that have been achieved. So, starting from the first one, each member must attend at least one weekly meeting and actively contribute to discussion and talks. Unfortunately, this wasn't achieved because not all the team members attend the weekly lesson of the course or interacted during the lesson. Instead, we achieved the team's second KPI, so at least 75% of team members attend value creation with course lecture each week and update the missing member with valuable information of the class. And ultimately, the team's last KPI was not met because we did not complete 100% of assigned tasks regarding the internal deadlines that had been set by the group. Moving on to analyze the project KPIs, as mentioned earlier, they are yellow because they cannot yet be judged as they refer to a future time frame. Among these, however, there is one red um, KPIs that is namely physically event launch completed with at least 25 attendees and active participation from key stakeholders. In this case, we assessed it this way because it's no longer aligned with the final virtual proposed solution. Okay, after the phase 5B, we now start to analyze the phase 5C that is about implementation and control. So this table presents new KPIs specifically for the implementation phase, ensuring the tracking of the process and maintaining alignment with the goals after the project is launched. So the team's KPI have been completely changed because they will pertain to the work phase that comes after the end of the course. So in this case, the most important KPI will be have a weekly meeting to follow up on the implementation plan, and at least one team member must provide the daily support to the board during the first 6 months. Instead, for the project KPIs, have been distributed from 2 to 24 months after the project launch. Specifically, the KPIs will be in 2 months, written approval from the Dean confirming support for the Virtual Entrepreneurship Hub. In 4 months, selection and formalization of at least 4 board members and 9 student committee members. In 6 months, Virtual Hub launch is completed with at least 50 participants. And in 12 months, a minimum of 20 Nova SST students registered and active on the platform. In 18 months, formal agreements signed with at least 2 industry partners, and in 24 months, at least one startup from the hub receive 30K in external funding from a VC, business angels, or grant. So, a successful implementation requires to acknowledge potential challenges and identify key partners. So, this table outlines the challenge we anticipate, such as stakeholder engagement, technical implementation, ecosystem building, and cultural shift, and also the part needed to address them. So, starting from the first point, since it will not be easy to maintain high engagement from all the stakeholders, we believe that the role of the student committee is fundamental in creating a true bridge not only between the virtual hub and the students, but also between the university and external partners. In fact, as shown earlier in the proposed organizational chart, it is expected that members of this committee will specifically work on the commercial side of the hub. As for the development of the virtual hub, there may be technical difficulties that can be resolved through the work support of students and, if necessary, by also involving experts in order to have the right skills for the realization and maintenance of the platform. In order to create a true ecosystem around the hub, it will be necessary to involve as many extra partners as possible, such as corporate and investors, to facilitate the development of further connection and expand the solution impact in the territory and not just within the university. And finally, as for guiding this cultural shift from a purely engineering mindset to one that embrace also entrepreneurship, it not to overturn the entire status quo, but will require the deemed institutional backing in launching and nurturing the hub to ensure its alignment with the university core values. So, just to summarize, the key output of the last phase of the value creation wheel is a detailed plan for launching the virtual entrepreneurial hub, including a roadmap and also KPIs. To be successful, this implementation requires effective technology and performance management to ensure the hub's strategic alignment and a sustainable growth. Now, let's move on the key takeaways from this project. At the end of the project, we received positive feedback from our stakeholders. The KDMs expressed increased motivation to implement the hub. The Nova SBA had the Institute acknowledge the quality of our analysis and solution and communicate that it would also like to help as partner Nova SCT in the opening of the virtual hub. And ultimately, students gave us an encouraging call to action. Make it big, make it happen. Assuming a more theoretical perspective, we can affirm that our project aligns strongly with stakeholders theory, which emphasizes the importance of engaging diverse stakeholders. The value creation wheel methodology supports this by facilitating value co-creation and ensuring the hub meets the needs of everyone involved. At the end of the project, we also compared our proposal solution with an AI generated solution. While the AI offered valuable suggestions, its focus was more on the service that the hub should provide rather than the concrete implementation steps. This misalignment with the core challenge underscores that while the proposals are compelling, they do not fully address the KDM's initial problem. However, several of the AI's recommendations, such as the virtual service platform and mentorship program, resonate with our proposal. Furthermore, the AI suggestion to use existing campus facilities for event could evolve the original conceived as purely virtually into a more effective hybrid format. During these 6 months of project, we have learned a lot. We learned valuable lessons about the importance of stakeholders' involvement. Engaging stakeholders lead to smoother implementation, provides valuable insight, and increased support and ownership. We also recognize the value creation with methodology utility and the importance of team dynamics, including clear structure, communication, coordination, creativity, and fair work distribution. We have reached the end of this journey. Thank you for your attention, and we hope that Nova FCT can best implement the proposed solution. Bye bye.